The annual strike season has resulted in millions of rand worth of damage to property and loss of potential income. The KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Community Safety, MEC Kaunda, will announce the plans that his administration will take to try to curb the escalation of violent public protests. MEC Kaunda will also be engaging with heads of law enforcement agencies to discuss these strategies and interventions to ensure adherence to the rule of law. And we cross live to the proceedings.
Equal district municipality. We must remind members of the public that when you block N2 and N3, you are not only harming KwaZulu-Natal or South Africa, but you are harming the entire Southern African region, because through the port of Durban and the Richards Bay, they are beneficiaries of the movements of goods, which are very key to their growth and economic development in their areas. We must remind our people that Section 17 of Chapter 2 of our Constitution provides that, and I quote, "Everyone has the right peacefully and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions." I close quote. The exercise of this right is regulated by the Gatherings Act of 1993. Any demonstration not complying with this act is therefore unlawful. Unfortunately, the majority of protests in the province do not adhere to the provisions of this act in one or more way and have adverse repercussions for our communities, commuters, and our economy. It is therefore important for us to manage such protests appropriately and in accordance with our laws, as we do not aspire to become a banana republic. We are still a country with the laws that must be adhered to. We want to therefore declare a war against these illegal protests. As the provincial government, we are saying that individuals who are implicated in these illegal protests in our communities must face the full might of the law. Any person who blocks roads or conducts any criminal act will be charged and be prosecuted. This anarchy must now come to an end. These illegal protests have also resulted in an unnecessary confrontation between the police and the communities. We again wish to remind people that police have a duty to protect every right in the Constitution, including the right of those who are not part of the protest, who still want to go to school, who still want to go to their respective workplaces, who still want to access hospitals and clinics to take their medication. In a province such as ours, where there is still pocket of killings, police are forced to divert their focus and attention, leave criminals roaming our streets to focus on people who are protesting. We call upon the protest organizers to ensure that they use the established government platforms of engagement provided by our Constitution and the laws of this country to raise their concerns on issues relating to service delivery. The Provincial Executive Council, under the leadership of our able Premier, Honorable Willis Mkhunu, has established a subcommittee on public protest that is tasked with devising a strategy that will deal with public protest. The subcommittee includes the following MECs. It's led by MEC Kaunda for Transport, Community Safety and Liaison, MEC Human Settlement and Public Works, MEC Ravi Pillay, MEC for Health, Dr. Sibongiseni Dhlomo, MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Nomsa Dube Ncube, MEC for Education, Honorable Mthandeni Dlungwane. The provincial government has given the subcommittee 3 months to eradicate illegal protest in our province. Anyone who wants to embark on a protest must follow correct legal processes or otherwise face the full might of the law. This subcommittee has already identified flashpoints for public protest in the province, where law enforcement will be heightened as part of our plans The flashpoints include the following areas: eThekwini Metro, which include informal settlements such as Ketomena, Chesterville, M19 Road, Botley Brush, Umlazi, Inanda, Kwamashu, Ntuzuma in the Ink area. In these areas, communities are complaining mainly about service delivery. Disruptions, extortionist practices by business forums, including inciting labor unrest at construction sites, factories, Port of Durban, as well as the biggest companies around the city, the Engine and the Sapref. In Ilembe district, there have been service delivery protests in Guaduguza, Groundville, Etete, and Mandeni in Stebe industrial area, where 2 factories were also banned. In Umkanyabute, we have a huge challenge of cross-border crime where cars are stolen and taken across the Mozambican border, which also lead to public unrest. In King Cetshwayo, particularly in Mfolozi and Umhlathuze municipalities, we have seen a resurgence of disruptions of major companies such as RBM through labor unrest and invasion of construction sites, factories, and Port of Richards Bay by business forums. In Ugu District Municipality, particularly in Reinkonyeni and Umdoni municipalities, we have experienced service delivery protests emanating from water shortages and the sabotage to the water infrastructure in the district. We are keeping a close eye on anti-foreigner sentiments emanating from competition of scarce resources, employment and business opportunities in Inanda, Kwamashu, Ntuzuma, Chesterville, Pietermaritzburg, Potchefstroom, and New Hanover. Umsinga has become another hotspot after members of the committee decided to embark on an illegal protest against the operations which are being conducted by the police in the area to tackle crime. We have extended the invite to all mayors of areas that we have identified as hotspots so that we all commit ourselves and give support to the integrated law enforcement plan that will be rolling out in these flashpoints that we have identified. In addition, we will also run a massive communication campaign to educate our citizens on channels to follow when wanting to protest, but we'll also utilize the very same campaigns to respond to the citizen grievances on issues relating to service delivery and provide feedback on stalled projects. We should not run away from our people, but we should go back and provide feedback so that we are able to be together and have a clearer understanding as to how things are going to be done and unfold in our communities. A key product of the work of the committee is the Provincial Intergovernmental Relations Protocol on Public Protest Management approved by the Executive Council on the 11th of April 2018. This protocol is binding to all spheres and agencies of government to work together and respond rapidly to challenges that might result to public protest. Our strategy is to proactively intervene in the areas with potential threats. We as government, we do not need to follow the events. We need to detect things before they happen, and we also give information to our communities and avert such incidents, violent incidents. This is a clear commitment on the part of the provincial government to enforce the law as a collective in respect of any unlawful protest activities. Ladies and gentlemen, any unlawful protest activity could result in prosecution for any one or more of the following offenses. Let me be slow when I read this. Contravention of Section 4 of the Control of Access to Public Premises and Vehicles Act of 1985, which upon conviction lead to liability of a fine not exceeding 2,000 or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years. Secondly, contravention of the Section 12, 1 of the Regulation of Gatherings Act of 1993, which may upon conviction lead to a liability of a fine or imprisonment for a period up to 3 years. Thirdly, contravention of Section 17 or 18 of the Riotous Assemblies Act of 1956, which may, upon conviction, lead to a liability of a fine or imprisonment. Contravention of Section 1 of the Trespass Act of 1959, which may, upon conviction, lead to liability of a fine not exceeding 2,000 or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years. Contravention of Section 3, 1 of the Dangerous Weapons Act of 2013, which may, upon conviction, lead to a liability of a fine or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 3 years. When people contravene of Section 3 of the Criminal Matters Amendment Act of 2015 for damage to essential infrastructure, which may, upon conviction, lead to liability or imprisonment not exceeding 30 years, or, in the case of corporate body, a fine not exceeding 100 million. Contravention of Regulation 319 of the National Road Traffic Regulations of 2000 for hindering or endangering traffic on a public road, which may, upon conviction, lead to a liability of a fine or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 1 year, and or assault, malicious damage to property, attempted murder, public violence, or sedition, which then means defiance of the authority of the state. Having a criminal record in many instances presents a hurdle to finding or keeping employment, qualifying for certain licenses, for example, public transport operating licenses, or qualifying to hold certain positions, whether in government or in the private sector. In terms of Section 162, 5E of the Companies Act of 2008, a court must make an order declaring a person to be delinquent director if the person has, whilst a director, at least twice been personally convicted of an offense or subjected to an administrative fine or similar penalty in terms of any legislation. This will include the legislation referred to above. In addition to the criminal sanctions referred to above, departments may also institute civil proceedings against unlawful protesters in the form of applying for interdicts against protesters. Interdicts granted may include court orders against the leaders of the protesters. This was done successfully in Winan area and will be implemented across the province. We have tested this and it's working successful. Other possible civil action includes the issuing of summons in order to recover damages suffered. In terms of Section 11 of the Regulation of Gatherings Act, if any riot damage occurs as a result of a gathering, every organization responsible for the gathering or any convener shall be jointly and severally liable for that riot damage as a joint wrongdoer, together with any other person who unlawfully caused or contributed to such riot damage. As the provincial government, we completely reject these acts of criminality as put the province right into abyss of lawlessness. Road blockages and disruption of factories, clinics, and schools send a negative image of our province, which affects investment. They send a message to the world that KwaZulu-Natal does not need development and progress because any investment coming through into the province will be a source of conflict. Last week, we dealt with a similar matter in Richards Bay, where Richards Bay Minerals, RPM, Rio Tinto management were threatening to pull massive investment and redirected it to another country, led We were led by the Premier, and we were together with MEC Zigalala of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. We were able to resolve the matters, and the company still remains in our province. And we have assured them, we gave them an assurance that we'll be able to rise to the occasion to make sure that the operations are not disrupted. We are also not pleased in some cases about the conduct of some police officers of some of these illegal protests. They have been complicit to these illegal actions by not being decisive on people who are unleashing a reign of terror to innocent members of the public. We fully understand that as the police, you will not be able to carry out this responsibility alone. The plan, however, presented by the police management in our meeting today is convincing, and we are satisfied that if implemented accordingly, will drastically reduce illegal and violent public protest. Therefore, government, traditional leaders, crime-fighting structures in various communities have committed to work closely to bring law and order in our communities. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we are aware that as election campaigns are entering a heightened phase, some people plan to use illegal protest as point-scoring exercise. We want to reiterate that these public protests must be in accordance with the law. We also discourage political parties from using genuine public issues and turn them through public protest and further cause disruption in the society because of their petty political scoring points. Over the next 3 months, the provincial government, political leaders, and local government will be embarking on a program to engage communities who have raised concerns with regards to issues of service delivery. This work will be accompanied by the plan unveiled by the police, working with other security agencies, which will ensure that KwaZulu-Natal is a safe and stable province. I thank you.